Jane, welcome back to Broadway. You're in Oh Mary, one of the biggest hits on Broadway. How does that feel?
Amazing, thrilling. I've loved the show from the minute I saw it downtown, and secretly, I'm gonna admit, while I was in my chair downtown, watching it for the first time and watching Cole up there, I was like,
I want to do that.
that's a great part.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
So for it to come through to fruition is kind of an amazing thing.
Yeah, a lot of people know you for your TV credits, right? Ally McBeal, 30 Rock, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, obviously great TV work, name that tune. But real Broadway fans, you're a real Broadway baby, and you've done so much on these blocks. So today I want to sort of take you on a little tour of your resume. You ready for that?
I love that. I never would have thought to do that, and now that you brought it up, it seems like I've played at a bunch of theaters on Broadway.
And then we're gonna start with this one right here.
Yeah.
Because great things happen here. This is the Eugene O'Neill Theater.
A really, really special theater.
Really special theater.
Yeah.
You actually won a Tony Award while appearing in this theater.
Yes.
As Carla in 9.
A dream come true.
That production was gorgeous.
It was amazing and fit quite intimately, I would say, in that theater. That's what I love about that theater. It feels so intimate when you're performing. You don't necessarily feel like you don't have to project all the way to the third balcony.
Yeah.
You feel like, and especially with that show, because it was such a seduction, and you wanted to feel the intimacy, and you can in that theater for that particular show.
You had probably the best enters I've ever seen on Broadway. Oh. You were upside down. No, you went back up upside down. You were upside down.
I came down from the sky.
You had like circus training to do this.
In a sheet,
You were naked in a sheet, coming down to sing this very sexy song to Antonio Banderas, basically a phone sex song.
Or a dream come true. Every woman's secret wish. Yeah, it was magical, and it was one of those special moments where I knew when they mentioned it, I was like, are you for real? Like, I knew it gave me shivers and the tingles that you wanted to have of theater magic from the minute I heard about it. So the fact that we were able to actually make it happen on a Broadway stage, and it felt meant to be and very magical at the time.
What about winning the Tony?
It's been my dream to just be on Broadway since I was a very young child, because I was always a fan of Broadway, and I lived right across the water in New Jersey. So we came and saw every show. I had very theatrically involved parents, and we came and saw every show. So the fact that I then somehow got to be in shows on Broadway and then to win a Tony, it was almost like it was bigger than the dream ever could have been thought of.
Yeah,
so
I love it. All right, well, let's get walking. We had a lot of sidewalk to cover.
All right, let's go.
Walk this way.
Yeah.
Jane, here we are in the underpass.
Where it all began, Paul.
This is where it all began. You made your Broadway debut here as an 18-year-old? Is that?
I think I was 17.
Oh my God, 17.
Yeah, my senior year of high school.
That is wild. And this was Starlight Express. Now it's, of course, the mega blockbuster Wicked. Yeah, it was a big gig to get.
Directed by Sir Trevor Nunn.
Yes, fancy, yes.
Yep.
And you were Dinah, the dining car. So it's a musical about trains, and you're all on roller skates.
Yes.
I love Dinah. It's great costume, great wig.
So cute.
Right?
Yep.
Dinah's a very loved character.
Yeah,
What was it like for you at that time? Because not only was it a Broadway job, but it was like a high energy, high pressure Broadway job.
I don't think I knew exactly what to expect. I think I had the moxie to jump in, and I think that's why I got cast.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know the reality. I got the job, and then I went to London to go see it, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. And then started working out immediately after that to get in shape for it.
Because
it's a sporting event is a large part of it. And it was thrilling. I mean, I was making my Broadway debut, something I never thought would happen in my career, and just so thrilled to do it. And it's also a giant theater.
Huge.
So it's not like you're just like, doing a little small production. It was, the set went all through the audience, and it had 2 floors and moving bridges and
Yeah. I know there were a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
And I also know you've told me in the past that the cast would actually go roller skating for fun beyond the show as well.
Well, that's what it reminds me, like skating on
skating through here?
Or going to like the health food store on my skates in between shows to get my dinner or my lunch, you know. We would even meet sometimes in Central Park before and do like a race or something, you know. We were really into it.
So now we're going to turn because your story actually continues here because we're going from the Wicked to the Jonathan Groff fandom over here at Circle in the Square,
Yes.
where Just in Time is a big hit. I know you love Mr. Groff as
Oh,
well.
I love Jonathan Groff, and I loved Just in Time.
Me too.
So much fun.
Yeah. So here, you did a show I saw called Tartuffe Born Again. It's credited on IMDb just as Tartuffe. It was actually called Tartuffe Born Again,
Yes, because it was a rewriting, a reinterpretation of Tartuffe.
Yeah. It was like a televangelist, right? Southern televangelist,
Which was a clever idea, I thought.
And what was Marianne? That was your character's name. What was she like?
That was my first and only venture of being an ingenue. It was a very short-lived period.
That was in the point of your career when you were just kind of a Broadway actress. It was before Ally McBeal, right? You were just kind of going from show to show, building a career.
Yeah. I was, it was post Starlight Express at Grand Hotel, but before Once Upon a Mattress and the television stuff starting. So, yeah, I would put it that way.
When do you look back on that woman, like when you sort of maybe didn't always know where the next thing was coming from? When do you look back on those days?
Kind of exciting, you know, a little bit of the unknown, but also where you are really pounding the pavement, auditioning for all the shows, you know, hoping that there's going to be a part that comes up that you'll be right for. And, you know, a lot of your career at that time, for sure, is if something is right for you that season, because they were going to make something for you, you know, certainly not at that time. And so it's really like, oh, I might be right for that one, so let me give it a shot. But I think of all of these days as like really happy times. Loving the discipline of it, loving the 8 shows a week, loving being a part of the community, loving being exhausted, but then somehow at places, this new energy comes through, and I'm hoping that still happens over at O'Mary. I think it will.
So here we are on West 54th Street. There's Studio 54. You worked there in a really, really, really lovely revival of She Loves Me, which is sort of like one of those like jewel box musicals that I feel like real musical theater people really like cherish, right?
Yeah, and one of my favorite things I've been a part of. The part is so delicious. Getting to work with Gavin is one of the, you know, greatest experiences I've had, and creating that number together was with Warren Carlyle and Gavin and myself, and making it our own, and just was one of those creative few days in the rehearsal hall that you remember forever, because it made it so unique and ours, and it really just came out of us organically talking about, you know, or making jokes. Like, you know, I jumped into a split that day as a joke just to make everybody laugh, and then they were like, wait a minute, let's
doing that every night.
Yeah, and then that's the first thing Gavin said to me, the sweetest man in the world, right? He said, are you sure you want to do that 8 times a week?
Right.
And I heard the applause in my head and said, yes! I have great memories. And also working with Scott Ellis. That was my third time working with Scott Ellis, the director, who I think is amazing, and I just adore working with him.
But I'm sure a lot of your memories are wrapped around Gavin, especially now, because you were obviously had this beautiful chemistry on stage. Like you said, he was just sort of one of a kind.
Yeah, and I mean, imagine hearing his voice every single night live, this far away from you, and looking into his dreamy eyes, and just was a total class act, you know?
So there used to be a theater over here, it's gone, called the Criterion Center, and that was the Roundabout Theater Company, and you did company there.
Company.
And you were April, the flight attendant.
And I still remember meeting you there for the very first time.
You're right, that is
you
where...
were so nice to me and gave me an interview before anybody, you know, knew who I was or wanted to even interview me, so it's very special to have that memory with you.
The show was also special. I appreciate that memory, and it's sad that building is now gone where we got to meet. But but it was fun. It's a fun company. I feel like company has now become more of an established. But that was actually the first revival trying to figure out this 70s musical, right? And it was the 90s then.
I know, because you just posted about it being the 30th. I didn't realize it was the 30th anniversary since we did that. And of course to work with Sondheim, who was
Mr.
there
Sondheim,
in rehearsals and in the recording studio, making sure we hit every note exactly right. And you know, if you're a theater kid and you dream of doing this, and the music I mostly listened to growing up were soundtracks from, you know, scores from Broadway shows, Broadway albums. So to get to work with Sondheim is like the pinnacle.
The ultimate. This is my favorite stop on our little tour because there's a stage door down there where I definitely stood there waiting to see you because I loved Grand Hotel so much. You were Flemschen Frida in Grand Hotel, Tommy Tune's Grand Hotel.
one of the most creative processes I've ever been a part of, and maybe like the most old school Broadway experience, because we did workshops for a few months prior to the event going up, where we had a script, but we kind of rewrote the script on our feet, reading chapters of the original novel. Tommy Toon we'd come into rehearsal and there would be chairs in different configurations. We'd be like, what's that? And then he would make some amazing, beautiful number out of it. And then we went out of town to Boston, got really terrible reviews, really rough reviews. And it was one of those things where they brought in Maury Yeston and we rewrote the show out of town, and then
You got a new song?
back in. I got many new songs. And that's when it's lucky when you're like 19 and kind of just a bit more fearless, because I had a new song every night in the show for about the first month, I would say.
Wow.
So some nights I did it just with a piano. It was a different time.
Wow.
But yeah, so it was so creative to then form a show that became what was Grand Hotel, and up for many Tony Awards, and
including for you, your first Tony nomination. And I feel like this is kind of probably the show that maybe took you to another level in the industry, right?
I think so, for sure. Yeah.
So this is the Broadhurst, as you know.
Yep.
You did another little musical comedy here, Once Upon a Mattress.
Once Upon a Mattress.
So Jessica Parker was Winifred.
Yes.
I look back on that time because it was right before she started doing Sex and the City and right before you started doing Ally McBeal.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like right after that production, you both kind of went and had these huge...
What was in the water at that time? Pretty amazing.
So what was that like, living in that kingdom?
Yes.
You were Lady Larkin.
I was Lady Larkin, super fun memories, really enjoyed it. And I had actually an incredible time rewatching it just now when it was on at Encores.
With Sutton Foster, that production.
Like, it just brought back all these warm, fuzzy memories to watch it again over there and remember how fun and funny that show is.
Well, here we are, the Lyceum Theater. This is your current Broadway home. What's it like being in this old-timey, I love, this is such a great theater for this show. I wanted it to be at the Booth Theater for obvious reasons,
I get it,
but it's so great here.
Yeah, it is, and it's one of the classic old school theaters. It feels incredibly intimate, so we feel a great connection to our audience, which we love. It's one of those shows that people come to see every Mary. And I'm so thrilled that people want to come see my Mary, and may it continue, for a long time with other people getting to play the role too.
Mary is vile in a lot of ways, and you're such a lovely, I've seen you do all kinds of things over the years, but Mary is really all out. Like what is it?
Unhinged,
all those,
explosive,
exactly.
Up there.
Is that the kind of role you're looking for these days?
It's so fun.
I've
been very lucky to work on amazing comedies and to love the show from seeing it, but then actually sitting with the script and working on it. It is an incredibly structured, perfect comedy. And a great comedic role.
So what is it like to take time and to walk from theater to theater and to actually think about, you are, at the end of the day, a girl who grew up in New Jersey. You were introduced to theater by your parents, community theater, small theater, and you dreamt of being on Broadway, being a Tony winner, and now look at what's happened.
I'm going to be honest, before we took this walk, I didn't realize how many theaters I had played in. I hadn't really taken it in. It feels very special. And I feel very lucky. I hope it continues. And I hope people for, the next few weeks that I am Mary in Oh Mary will come and celebrate the bratty curls with me.